Hey everyone, Cairo here with TCS Rockets. Today I'm going to be going over my top 5 favorite cards from Ikoria. We're going to go over what each of these cards do and some cool synergies that they have. First up, we have the Ozolith. The Ozolith is a 1-mana legendary artifact, and it reads, whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. Also, it reads, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. So this card's really cool. In Limited, it's going to be a powerhouse. It's going to allow you to save all your keyword counters and your +1/+1 counters for your late game bombs. Also in Standard, I see this being playable. There are a ton of keyword value creatures bouncing around. And in Pioneer, I see this card being super playable with Hangerback Walker. For those of you who don't remember Hangerback Walker, it is a XX artifact creature. Its power and toughness is equal to the number of counters on it, and it enters with X counters. And when it dies, you get X11 Thopters. So the cool synergy here is if you have Hangerback Walker and the Ozolith, when Hangerback Walker dies, you move all of its +1/+1 counters onto the Ozolith, and then you create X Thopters. Then, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you can take all those counters and put them on the Thopters you just made. This could potentially lead to some one-turn kill combo, or even just some late-game value. So, look out for the Ozolith. I think it's going to see a lot of play. Next up, we have Genesis Ultimatum. Lot going on here. First up, its mana cost. Green, green, blue, 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 red, red for sorcery. It reads, look at the top 5 cards of your library, put any number of permanent cards from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest into your hand. Exile, Genesis Ultimatum. So, one thing I like about this card is, if we reveal no permanents with it, at least we get to draw those 5 cards. Another thing I like is its potential synergy with Fires of Invention. Being able to play this card for 0 mana potentially is a huge power play. And lastly, I really like that any permanent we reveal with an Enter the Battlefield ability will trigger when we play this card, which could lead to a lot of potential value all in one turn. Oh, and one last thing with this card. Maybe we reveal Omniscience and just win the game on the spot. A lot of power going on here. I expect to play against this card, at least in Standard. Next up, we have Luminous Broodmoth. Luminous Broodmoth is 2 white for a creature insect 3/4 flyer. It reads, whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it. So, this card, right off the bat, you just might jam this in your white-based mid-range deck because it gives you ultimate value in the late game, allowing all your creatures that die to come back with flying. Arguably an upside is going to be huge. Secondly, this might open the door for an Aristocrats build. We already have a Rakdos Aristocrats build running around in Standard. This might edge it into the Mardu territory. So, look out for Luminous Broodmoth. I think this is going to be a huge Standard powerhouse, seeing play in various mid-range decks, and I really do think it's going to open the door for a Mardu Aristocrats deck. Next card we got is Katrina Tryam. Katrina Tryam is a land. It is a forest island mountain, meaning it taps for green, blue, or red. Katrina Tryam enters the battlefield tapped, has cycling 3, so for 3 mana, and we discard this card, we get to draw a new card. I like this card for a couple reasons. The first thing is it is fetchable. Fetchable Triland, along with the rest of its cycle, are going to be huge in Eternal formats. I also like that this card is a mountain, meaning it will trigger Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle, leading to maybe a resurgence of the Temur Bring to Light Scapeshift deck in Modern. And this card has cycling, so if we draw it in the late game and we don't want it, well, we can replace it with a new card. So overall, these cards have a lot of play. This card and the rest of its cycle are definitely going to be played in Standard, and I can 100% see them seeing play in Modern. All right, next up. My number 1 card in Ikoria is the Almighty Bushwag. He is almighty and none of the other monsters dare mess with him. Anyways, jokes aside, my actual number 1 card in Ikoria is Fiend Artisan. Fiend Artisan is a green-black, 1/1 creature nightmare. So, 2 mana overall. It reads, Fiend Artisan gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. And for X, a green-black hybrid, and we tap it, we can sacrifice another creature to search our library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So, a couple things to talk about this card. It reminds me a lot of Tarmogoyf, and it reminds me a lot of Birthing Pod. Tarmogoyf, of course, is a staple in Modern Jund, and Birthing Pod, so powerful it is banned in Modern. That being said, I believe this card has a home in Jund. This card is super powerful. It'll be much bigger than a 1/1 when you play it, and the potential to have Birthing Pod action going on again in Modern is huge. The only downside to this card is the sorcery speed clause, which sadly means we are unable to sacrifice creatures in response to removal, but I don't think that's enough to hold this card back. I believe this is the most powerful card in all of Ikoria. All right, everyone, that is gonna do it. Thank you for watching our top 5 cards of Ikoria. Everyone, stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time.